from like a dollar store or something, very humble. And that would be the Christmas present that year. And as I was standing in line, there was a woman behind me with a very unhappy little girl. The little kid, probably 3 years old, max. She didn't smell clean, as a matter of fact. She didn't smell as if she'd been cleaned in a long time. And the mommy was irritable, very cranky, back to her, exacerbating the little girl's pain and anguish. And very carefully, I turned to the little girl and I gently picked her up, held her close, just loved her for a moment. And as I was holding her, with great gentleness, I looked at the mommy and said, she's small, she's little, she's smaller than you. You're the mommy. She needs love. The mommy started to cry. The little girl stopped her fidgeting, and I gave the little child back to the mommy. They were both changed. It took nothing except the decision for me to hold a really dirty little girl. So that's alchemy at its best. During that same period, which was, for those of you who have not eaten properly, or really something dreadful has happened to you and there's no funds, you know what I'm speaking of. And there was one night where there was really food for one, and I knew without a shadow of a doubt it was going to be my son. And the food was looking at it thinking, oh, my dear, I hope that still has some life force in it. So I had enough for one hamburger. I cut the hamburger in half, and the only roll that I had to put it on was a hot dog roll. So that's why I cut the hamburger in half, to make it look like a hamburger fit on the hot dog roll. And my dearest, most wonderful treasure in the world, my son, he was probably about 7 at the time. He saw my angst and my heartbrokenness, that this is what I had to give him. Although some of you are thinking, I wish I'd even had that. But he gently came and wrapped his arm around me and said, Mommy, it's a Frankenburger. My son is now in his 40s. To this day, we talk about the Frankenburger. And we teach his children about the Frankenburger. Now we can laugh about it, but he did alchemy for me. It lightened a broken heart, a broken spirit. He changed it with laughter and humor. That's alchemy. When you lift someone's spirit, you've changed things. You've changed from sorrow and heartache to a giggle, a hug. That's what the season's about. So I'm going to remind you again, please call in. I'm happy to address some of your alchemy issues or how you can change it with alchemy. So the number is 321-806-3159. So once again, 321 on the Space Coast, 806-3159. And you will meet firsthand the wonderful man who owns and operates this station. So you'll get a cheerful earful from Jeff. There's a few other things you can do with alchemy. And this, I would tell you, I find it very important to do this at this time. We used to do it pretty much all the time. I grew up doing this. I grew up in a household where you actually said a blessing before the meal. But now, because people are tuned into the television while they're eating, or they're on the run while they're eating, there's no meal time. Blessings have been forgotten. Well, in case you've missed the memo, basically your food is toxic because of all the chemicals that are being dumped on it insistently and consistently. So as you bless the food, it actually helps diminish the poison that you're being fed. So blessing has become absolutely imperative. So think carefully. And while I'm on the TV with food, it becomes habit forming to sit there and mindlessly eat your food while you're watching either some sort of horrific TV show, or worse than that, you're watching the news. I'm not sure which is worse, but I think it's the news. So the news is poisoning you. You're eating the food mindlessly. So your digestive tract is thrown off. Your stomach and your spleen no longer work correctly. You've just actually fed your kidneys more fear. So you could see where I'm going with this. It doesn't make you healthy. So today's a wonderful day because it's actually a rather a new beginning today, believe it or not, on the 20th. It's the beginning of the third month of the galactic calendar. So when you have a beginning in the galactic calendar, again, new beginnings. And this particular 4-week slot of the galactic calendar has to do with finding your purpose. Well, I just told you what one of your big purposes should be, blessing your food. And those of you who make the food, just give a blessing over it. It doesn't have to be a formal thing. My training is if you sneeze, I'm simply going to say, God bless you. Whatever your terminology is for the great logos of this planet, address it. Call upon it. If it's Allah, if it's Buddha, if it's Yeshua, they're not fussy. Just ask for the blessing of alchemy to transmute what's happening here for you. It's pretty cool how it works. My son and his grandchildren know immediately when something really, really tastes good, and that's why I'm to do a little alchemy as I'm preparing the food. It's spectacular. You can almost take mud and turn it into something good. Now, I'm being a bit facetious with that, so please don't go into the yard and make a mud pie and hope to eat it. Think that one through. Got to have a little fun with some of this. Here's another way that I did alchemy for those out in the business world. Many years ago, one of the ways that I began to generate an income for myself and my son was to become a realtor. I was no more equipped to be a realtor than the man in the moon. To this day, I actually don't understand a contract. They didn't really mean much to me. I didn't understand the competitiveness in that world that, this is my customer. So I was not particularly equipped for it. But nonetheless, when you have to make a living, you find a way. What I'm darn good at, though, is the alchemy that could change me and change what was happening into a very productive life as a realtor. So here's one of the things I did. Before I got out of bed in the morning, I simply imagined that all of the phone lines coming into where I would be sitting for what they call an up call they were filled with rose-colored, shimmering, golden, silver beads of light. And I did that for 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, and I would just kind of keep blessing the phone lines because I knew that that's the only way I was going to get a customer. Well, it became very interesting. As I would take my up time, the poor dear person that had the other hour and a half would get absolutely no phone call. I began to get calls out of the clear blue, and this was in the early 80s when this would be a lot of money, a phone call for, come, I have $1 million home, could you have that listing? Or a big corporation calling in with, oh, we have lots of people coming. Could you help us? To this day, I'm still friends, and this is like 30 years later, with some of the people from those different alchemist phone calls. Finally, after about 6 months, I had so much business, I actually had to give up my front desk duty because I knew that I was not liked. There was jealousy, there was anger. And I kind of just sat there like almost apologetic. But that's how you do it. Bless your car. You want it to keep you safe. So it's very, very interesting how every step of the way you are a qualified alchemist. There were lots of things that went on in those real estate days that I look back because it interested me to the point where I knew I needed to make money. But even at that time, I was writing articles for magazines on astrology and dreams and kept learning and kept doing private consultations for people and kept teaching at adult education schools. But that wasn't really paying for the food on the table. So people began, actually, once they came to understand, because I would share, oh, I got to get home because, number one, I have a son to take care of and feed, and I got to go teach a class tonight. And then, of course, curiosity would be, oh, what are you teaching? Well, tonight I'm teaching astrology. I'm now teaching the laws of the universe. And these people, it impacted them. So they began to ask questions like, well, when's the best day for me to sign the contract for that house? And they began to trust when I would tell them, this house doesn't feel so good for you. That's all they needed to hear. We're out of here. So it became, I actually say to people, I didn't sell homes. I loved people into their right space so that they could thrive and have a healthy life, and their business would be strong. Their children would do well in life. And it's pretty darn amazing. Some of the people are still in those homes 30 years later. And I actually did interior design the same way because I blended it with function, with everything I did in real estate. So with interior design, I don't know, ma'am. Maybe this is going to be a better fit for you. And again, alchemy underneath it, watching for their highest good. When you make the bottom line your new God, it's alchemy, okay? It's just the dark side of alchemy. It's black magic. And that's what's gone wrong with a lot of the world right now. It's black magic. It's going to be much more productive when we learn to take charge in the white magic, if you will, the white magic of life, the mystery of life. And it is magical. But we've become so beaten down that you kind of forget that that's your real mission, to turn the world around. The shamans and the indigenous tribes, they call it shape-shifting. It's one and the same thing. So in shape-shifting, they'll actually say, vision the world you want as you want it. If you want a world of machine guns and dark boots and angry people and confusion and mind control and things that are out of control every which way, well, that's the black magic and that's it. But from what I understand, and trust me, it comes from a really good, high source. The white boots win because light wins. It always wins. It looks desperate right now, and they want you to believe it won't win. It's not the setup. It's not the plan. Lives may be lost. That's true. But not lost forever. You'll be on the sidelines so that you can come back and create the earth again in a wonderful new way. In a way where no one is hungry. and not because some massive company is